we will be sharing it afterwards. So if you want to share with colleagues, people unable to make today's call, then please feel free to do so. I'd encourage you as we go through today's presentation to put your questions in the chat room, the chat box at the bottom of the screen. We will open it up to questions. We're actually going to do that today. I know in previous calls we've always run out of time, but today I'm determined that we all get an opportunity to ask a few questions of Jo. And that's about it in terms of housekeeping. Just a few kind of updates, really. Most of you, I think, are pretty familiar with where we are on the COVID front. There's going to be a statement this afternoon by the Scottish First Minister at 2:50 on potentially further lockdowns in Scotland. The leaders of some of the areas most affected in England, Leeds, Manchester, Newcastle and Liverpool, I know a few of you on this call are in those parts of the country, are suggesting that the government's approach just simply isn't working at the moment. We do know the government is mulling over some sort of new traffic light system to try and improve people's understanding of what they're supposed to be doing. But we also have heard this morning that despite the fact that we're making strong progress on finding some sort of drug to help us through this period, Roche, who are the government financed pharmaceutical company in this space, have just said that they've got a capacity issue which they hadn't foreseen, which may actually delay the distribution of any drugs. So it's, first of all, it's coming soon, but it might not be coming quite as quickly as we hoped it would, because we've got distribution issues. All of that, of course, pales into insignificance compared to the laugh that is the US. I think all of us have sat really agog. I mean, what can I say? I mean, you really cannot write this stuff. You know, we've seen Trump, apparently today, his oxygen saturation levels are 95 to 90%, 97% of what they should be, which is absolutely obviously amazing. You know, this obviously puts him into Superman status, his ability to recover in such a short period. Of course, it might be that actually he never had it in the first place. What we did see earlier in this year when Boris got it, and you remember on this channel, we shared with you some of the research that was being done by Savanta, that we saw that Boris's popularity actually went through the roof when he went into hospital, and actually was at all-time high at 43% approval rating. It's now about -20. One can only imagine if Trump saw that data. Perhaps, maybe I'm being a bit too cynical. But we'll have to see, because at the moment he's still behind in the polls, and Biden appears to be actually making decent progress. So one can only assume it's not working for him. So maybe I'll get another bout next week. We'll have to wait and see. Anyhow, that's not what today's about. Today is about actually looking at one of the industries, I guess, that's been hardest hit in recent months, and that's the travel industry, but in particular looking within the travel industry at the cruise business. And if you cast your minds back to the end of March, the very first, I guess, major event that made us worried about the onslaught of COVID was the fact that there was this ship stuck outside of somewhere. I think it was Japan. I can't remember now, but I think it was Japan. The Princess, not one of Joe's ships, but
not one of mine.
Not one of yours. But what it did demonstrate, obviously, was that if you have a confined environment, and obviously one of the concerns always is that in that sort of environment, it's quite easy for people to be able to actually get infected. And hopefully we've all learned from that. And that's why I guess the rule of 6 is now being promoted. Jo's going to talk to us not about just that today, but also talk to us about her brand, her purpose, what they as an organisation have had to do in order to be able to actually get through COVID, and also what their plans are in the future. She's also incredibly passionate about marketing, agencies, has views on all of that. It's good stuff. So we're looking forward to hearing more about that. She's been with Celebrity Cruises as sales and marketing director for the UK and Ireland. She joined in 2005, since which time she's been promoted and promoted and promoted. Today, she is now responsible for setting up and running a dedicated team of over 100 people to support Europe, Middle East and Africa, across all aspects of the business. So whilst marketing is in her DNA, it's not what she's focused on today. It's about running the business. Prior to joining Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, she has held various senior positions at Walt Disney Parks and Resorts, which is where we first met, Universal Studios and Thomas Cook over the years. She's had loads of awards and accolades. She's an incredibly awarded lady, and I guess I'll just pick out a couple actually. In 2018, she was honoured with the Outstanding Contribution to the Cruise Industry Award. like a lifetime achievement award, what you might get at the Oscars. And she's also a passionate advocate of diversity and inclusion, is the executive sponsor of the LGBT Employee Resource Group within the, RCL Cruises in the UK and Ireland. She's been recognised for her work not just at RCL but within the industry, and has been included in the top 100 list of LGBT people in business as compiled by Outstanding and the Financial Times in 2016. She's in the top 10 list of LGBT people at the British LGBT Awards in 2017 and was shortlisted for my favourite here, the Diva Magazine Diversity Champion Award in 2019. So we're amongst royalty, we're amongst the Diva today. It's fantastic to have her on board. No pun intended. For those that don't know Celebrity Cruises, Celebrity Cruises is an award-winning global holiday brand with over 30 years in the business. They're known for their innovation, their design, and for delivering world-class holidays and experiences. And today they have 14 ships visiting over 300 destinations across 7 continents. And many of you may have enjoyed their hospitality in the past. You may be well on one of their ships. They're the ones with the big X, which is a mark of modern luxury. It's about coolness, it's about being contemporary in its design, and creating outstanding dining experiences, guest experiences as a whole. It's a 6-star deluxe floating hotel in many respects and then some. And over the years, the brand has continued to innovate. We'll talk a bit about innovation today. We'll talk about the importance of local and how actually by working with creative talent around the world, they've been able to actually develop their proposition. You should also be aware that in recent years, they've extended their fleet. In 2009, they launched a new ship, Celebrity Flora, which was the first purpose-built ship to be able to visit the Galapagos Islands. So if that's on your hit list, if that's on your bucket list, I would suggest that is the way to go. As I say, they're a pioneering brand. They were the first brand to introduce celebrity dining in 2000. They essentially established the concept of modern luxury cruising with its Solar Series in 2008. They were the first American ship line to have a female captain on the cruise ship in 2015. Many of you will have seen what they call their magic carpet, which is the first cantilever dining venue on the side of the ship, which literally goes up, I think it's 20 or 30 floors on the side of the ship. It's wonderful vista and a great place to dine and drink. And they've also been massive advocates of their impact on the environment and taken a leadership stance on reducing their carbon footprint, as it were. And then finally, they're the first cruise line ever to have an all-female bridge and leadership team, which was as recent as 2020. So very much leaders in their space, very much a purpose-led business. And Jo very much has been behind all of those innovations, and her leadership role extends way beyond her responsibilities in EMEA. She reports into the chief executive of the cruise line back in Miami. So Jo, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you for joining today.
Longest introduction ever. Thank you,
I'm
Stephen.
sorry, yeah. That was a lot to say. I thought it was important to try and convey to everybody the breadth of both your achievements and also what you're about as a person. I mean, we've all obviously sat there and we've got a number of business leaders on today's calls whose own businesses are very much in the docks at the moment, particularly in the brand experience space, which is ultimately where you are. Looking at the cruise industry and looking at where you are at the moment, you know, what's next for cruise? How does cruise get back to cruising?
Well, as you said at the beginning, I mean, literally the cruise industry was in the eye of the storm. And as we know, I think the travel industry and the hospitality industry has been the most impacted by COVID. It sort of reinforced all of the misperceptions that as an industry we've been working on for a long time to overcome. The age scenario, sickness and cabin fever, and that has been a real challenge for us to overcome as an industry. All of which, as I said, are misperceptions. I think from a health and safety point of view, the cruise industry has always been way ahead of any hotel business, for example, from a sanitation point of view. And the next real round now is the level of protocols that we're putting into place. So you know, this is a global business. There's over 300 ships around the world within the industry, of which about 50 are within the Royal Caribbean group, which Celebrity Cruises is part of. 4 global brands: Royal Caribbean, Celebrity, Silversea, and Azamara. So we're the second largest cruise company after the Carnival Group. But the good thing about us as an industry is that we work really closely together through CLIA, through the Cruise Line International Association, because whilst we compete like cat and dog when it comes to the commercial side of life, what's really important with it when it comes to the health and safety side now and getting cruising back, because we've now been, whilst we're in the water, we're sort of out of the water, we're what we're calling a warm layup. So the ships are all being kept going, but we haven't got any guests on board. We're working together now with the top experts from around the world, with the Healthy Soul panel that we've put together across brands, to make sure that we now work together with all of the governments, because we have to work with all of the governments around the world to get cruising again. So we're working with the FCO here, we're working with the CDC, the Central Disease Control in the United States, literally around the globe, in putting together the protocols, of which there'll be really sort of 5 key areas to make sure that cruising is as safe as possible when we do go back in the water. And I think there's light at the end of the tunnel, which is the good news, because, as I said, we've been physically out of the water now since April this year, which is when the first thing we had to do was actually get all of our guests home. And then the second thing that we've really been working on, and only really just completed as we now look to coming back into service, is getting our 45,000 crew home, or most of them, and keeping minimal crew on board. So it's been incredibly challenging, incredibly complex. As I said, from a PR point of view, the Tokyo scenario with the ship that you mentioned was a real challenge for the industry. Yet again, the industry unfairly not. It's a tiny percentage of the overall travel industry. And yet so often from a sustainability point of view, or in this case, from a COVID point of view, it's been really challenging in trying to get people to understand just the level of protocols that the industry has overall. But we are getting there, which is the good news.
And do you see the impact, obviously, on COVID beyond, obviously, the cruise industry, and impacting long-term how people travel and their propensity to travel at all?
I think, well, I don't think it will come back. I mean, this is certainly in all of my career. I think for all of us, for the travel industry in particular, 9/11, all of the different scenarios that we've been through, financial crash, Costa Concordia accident in 2013, we've been through so much, the ash cloud, etc. But there's nothing quite like this, without a doubt. And I think without a doubt it will come back. Will it come back? The sad thing is we were all in such a boom, right? 2019 was the best year ever. There's over 100 ships on the order books for new cruise ships around the world. All of the brands delivering incredible holidays overall with their unique propositions. And without a doubt, this has been a setback. But we've actually taken that time to not only work on the health and safety protocols, which are really, really important and critical, but also take time out to really consider ourselves as a brand proposition. And how do we want to come back, so that, as we say, that the comeback is stronger than the setback. And usually, our ships are sailing 365 days a year, 24/7. And we operate on a financial model of going out at 100% plus load factor. So pretty much the industry goes out at 100%. Hotels and airlines would die for that level of load factor. When we come back, we're clearly not looking at that. We're looking at taking on board, and we will come back slowly. We won't come back with a rush, and we've got to make sure when we come back, it's the right time to come back, and that we're absolutely confident, pre-vaccine as much as you can be, that we have everything in place to make sure that our guests will not only have a safe holiday, but also have an enjoyable holiday, because that's the most important thing. But I do believe it will come back. I believe that 21 will be a restricted year. I think 22 will start to get our mojo back, and I think by 23, I can see that we'd be back into sort of 2019 levels. But I think it's going to take time for us to get there.
I mean, you're a business obviously that's engaged and has, invested, billions of dollars in building new ships and new infrastructure. And like a lot of the cruise line businesses, you're having to carry a lot of debt. How do you finance that debt for that period of time? I mean, are you looking to government support? Have you had to refinance?
No government support. So we've raised over $6 billion so far. You're right, we're burning, it's public knowledge, we're burning about $250 million a month. But from that point of view, from the liquidity and what we've raised, we have confidence in the organisation overall. So from that point of view, it will be a very different organisation. The other thing that you do when you have this time is you take the opportunity to really look at, in times are good, you're less critical as to the areas where you can really make greater savings. So we've had to make some very tough decisions very early on. About 25% of the workforce was let go as early as end of March, beginning of April. So we've made some critical changes there. We've looked at across the brands, how can we make greater efficiencies? Obviously, we've pretty much gone dark from a marketing point of view. We've kept the lights on, key areas of website, engaging with our loyalty database, engaging with our trade partners. And I'm pleased to say that we're now getting ready to really hopefully announce the new deployments for 21, the new health and safety protocols, our reinvigoration of our new modern luxury brand positioning, and also our new sort of pricing proposition as well. So we've really taken the time to focus on some energizing stuff for the team, because keeping the team going during this time is difficult as well. So we've obviously looked at the furlough scheme. So some key roles have been on furlough. We've also redeployed people. So whatever is on your job description, it's most unlikely that's the job that you're currently doing. In fact, we've needed a significant amount of members in to make sure that we continue to look after our trade partners. Most of our business is booked via a third party, via the trade. They're significant for us, for the whole of the cruise industry. Our loyalty guests, as I said, we have a very, very strong loyalty database. And, I'm delighted to say that we're being held up there as Royal Caribbean Group is one of the organisations within the industry that is refunded incredibly quickly. Nobody's achieved 14 days, nobody, but we're on average hitting about 30 days. Or more importantly, we came up very quickly to try and save the sail, obviously, with a future cruise credit of worth 125% of your current holiday. And to date, about 65% of our business is basically the guests are taking that, and they can rebook when they feel ready to rebook, and they get a 25% added value to their holiday. We've also protected all of our travel partners' commission. So even though we haven't sailed, they've made the booking and we're still paying them commission. So we've really very quickly came up with making sure that we looked after our guests, number one, we looked after our crew, and we looked after our trade partners as well as we've gone through this. Because, as I said, when we come back more than ever, we want all of those guests to come back with us. We want other competitor guests to come with us as well. And we want to make sure that our trade partners come out of this as best as they can. And sadly, not all of them will make it. And that they will be supporting the partners that have supported them as they've gone through that. So those relationships all round, relationships with consumer, relationships with trade, our crew, and also our trade partners has been critical.
You touched on government support, or the lack of. I'm assuming that you were able to benefit at the beginning of COVID from the furlough programme that was put in place by the government. Are you, like a lot of the agencies on this call, looking to make further restructuring at the end of the furlough period, at the end of this month?
I'm planning I'm planning that all the staff are back with us from the beginning of November, because, as I said, I'm feeling far more buoyant now than I have done for a while. I know it's one step forward, three steps back in the world that we're living in, but I'm confident that there is light at the end of the tunnel. I'm confident that come the end of this month, starting November, we have got a lot of great stuff to do to really get everybody ready for when we move forward. And we know there's such pent up demand for holidays for next year, that we're ready to go. I mean, who doesn't? You know, what's the one thing that people have missed? They've missed going on holiday massively. So from that point of view, we are getting ready for what we believe will be quite a significant move towards getting ready for rebookings, all of those guests that got the future cruise credits, once we announce everything that we're getting ready to announce end of this month.
Tell me a little bit about your brand reputation for innovation. How do you go about innovating? I mean, a lot of people on this call are in the creative business and would be interested in that. And is there a defined process, or is it less defined than that?
No, there absolutely is. So we have our new build team are not dissimilar teams to the Imagineers that we had at Disney. So pushing the boundaries and coming up with innovation in builds is something that, as a corporation, we are known for, and that's really driven by Richard Fain, our chairman, who constantly pushes the boundaries of what do we come up with next, and making sure that there's clear differentiation between the brands. So Royal Caribbean, biggest ships in the world, 6,500 guests on the biggest ships in the world, flow riders on board, you know, pretty much the carousels on board, just unbelievable things that you'd never believe would happen. It's best family holidays out there. From our point of view, from Celebrity point of view, it's very much about sophisticated design. So we're really targeting affluent consumers who absolutely appreciate design in particular. So one of the things, for example, when we designed our new class of ships, the Edge series, the first one which launched last year, the second one has not yet had any guests on it. We were launching in April in the UK, actually. We then went out purposely and looked for designers and innovators who had never been involved with cruise ships before. And we did that on purpose because sometimes you know too much. You know the complexity of what you can and can't do of designing on board a ship. And of course, that all is critical when you finally put it together. But internally, the internal new build team have got all of that knowledge. So, for example, Kelly Hoppen has done all of the design for the Edge series ships, and her designs are now being retrofitted onto all of our pre-existing ships as well. We had a big program that was happening with that. Obviously, that's slowed down as well at the moment, but that will come back. And for those of you who know her design, it's a unique design. She'd only ever done properties before, predominantly boutique hotels or private properties. So for her, it was great. And for us, it was great. And she led all of that design team. But we had various other designers as well working with her from around the globe. I have to say a lot of Europeans from that point of view. So it's really important to us that we look to work with different talent, different designers, very often small entrepreneurial businesses, not large organizations. And we actually find that the collaboration of that group of people coming together. So we had all of the designers working together as we built the series of ships, as opposed to working in isolation. And they actually fed off each other. So, for example, Tom Wright designed the Magic Carpet, who designed the drab in Dubai, and he worked with Kelly Hoppen. So he's a brilliant architect, but he worked with Kelly Hoppen to make sure that the guest experience was as wonderful as the creative design that he built of literally having dinner on the edge at 16 floors up, not 30 decks up. That's a bit too high, Stephen, that you mentioned for a ship, but 16 decks up. So a real mishmash of people, and the same on the culinary side as well. So Daniel Ballou, for example, is working with us very much on our culinary side, and our own executive chef in his own right is a Michelin star chef. But we've got over 10 different restaurants on board. So it's important that the experience, remember you're on board for 7 to 10 days on average, is that it's like going on holiday. You want to go out to different restaurants, different venues, different places. And therefore it's really important that the aesthetics and the mix is not all the same, and you get different design that mixes as you go through that.
So you've demonstrated and spoken about innovation in terms of both the way you've managed COVID and how you've worked with your travel partners. And obviously it's baked in very much to the design of the ships. To what extent, and I'm just wondering, particularly at the moment, given that you're not able to cruise, have you considered taking that brand experience off board and actually finding other ways you can actually engage and express the brand? Has there been any conversations around that? I know obviously we still have our limitations in terms of groups of 6, etc., but is there an opportunity between now and when you get back to full steam?
Yeah. I mean, we're not planning for the world staying in groups of 6, by the way. So without a doubt. So we're absolutely planning for, we're always looking sort of 5-10 years out. So we've actually already done that from a Royal Caribbean point of view. We've got private islands, and within those private islands, and that's a benefit of how we operate when we start to operate, because I think people will need to be more in a bubble. So we're, the testing side, the sanitation on side, the social distancing on side, that's still enjoyable. We won't be going out at 100% load factors, as I mentioned. And clearly, when you then get off the ship, to start with, where we've got the private islands, where they're fully in our control, that makes it easier as well. And these private islands are wonderful for all of the guests to enjoy. So we're looking at all of the brands taking advantage of that from when we restart cruising again. And we've also taken this time, funnily enough, we've been working with a guy called Piers Schmidt, who some of you may know. He was very much involved in the rebrand of the One and Only. He's been involved in a lot of luxury brands, and he's really helped us to again get that outside thinking coming in. He's really looked at our brand, our proposition, everything that we are doing, and has really challenged us on looking at how, when we do come back, the strengthening of our brand proposition and who we're targeting. So, for example, we've probably been trying to be everything to too many people. So we're being far more targeted in the guest mix that we're looking at and going after the affluent Gen Xers. That's not to say generally the baby boomers, of which I'm one of, so I'm not knocking them. And I'm a great believer it's more about attitude than age. But without a doubt, everything that we offer as a brand, we need to get our age down. Simple as that. So he's really challenged us on some of the ways in which we're communicating the brand, how we're talking about the brand. And it's really made us think differently about some of the propositions that we're going to be coming back with, as I said, when we return, including our pricing proposition as well. I'm not going to go into everything today because it's a lot of work that we're doing. We've decided as a brand that we're not going to go on land. As I said, we have got the private islands as a corporation, but we're sticking to what we do best, which is offering the best cruise holidays.
Changing gear, if I may, for a second, and talk a little bit about how you work with external consultants, and in this case also agencies. In your time, both at Royal and also at Celebrity, you've worked with some of the largest agencies and some of the smallest agencies in the world. Be interested to know, how do you view the groups, the monoliths, WPPs of this world, the Omnicoms of this world, versus the independents? Do you have a point of view on that?
I mean, I would never say, oh, it's got to be small or it's got to be big. You're right. I mean, I've worked here, and obviously when we were at Disney as well with different agencies. I think what's really important is that to me, a lot of it again is down to people. I think such a big part of it is the team that you've got working on your account and people truly understanding your brand. And that can be that you get a great team within a bigger agency, or in a smaller agency, you get the most senior and even the founders. And I would say it probably isn't a coincidence that currently, I don't know if you know, Lucky Generals won our global pitch recently. They were the only London headquartered agency in the pitch. I did put them forward. I'll be honest, I didn't think that they would probably win the pitch, just by the fact that we are a large global company, US headquartered. They won the pitch, and 2 years on, they are still, well, nearly 2 years on, and they have been fundamental in helping us through this time that we're in. So I think that's a great example. Now we still have the key members and the founders working with us on the business, not day to day, but they're still very involved in the business. And I think that's made a significant difference as well. Another example is good relations on the PR side. Now, a lot of these are part of larger networks of organisations, but they're sort of independent, founded probably from a starting point. And Good Stuff was our on the media buying side has been our agency. So I'd say they've been, and there's been a mix. Some of them have become global, some of them have stayed local, but more and more now we are looking, obviously, from a global point of view. And it's important to us from a pan-Anglo point of view that we've got your sort of US, UK, Australia, and Canada, and those are really the four key markets that are really important to us. But I would say it's a mix. I'd say the most important thing is the team working on the account, and that to me is what is make or break.
And do you write that into your contracts now with your agencies and specify, this contract is about those people? If those people are to move or whatever, that would be an issue for you.
It's more about, obviously people move on, okay, but it's more about that we make it very, very clear that we don't want anybody coming into a pitch that we then never see again. Or we only see, they do most of the talking in the pitch, but actually they're then not with us at all. That is absolutely fundamental. So we make that very, very clear. And we then say if there are changes, because we understand people need career development. They, after a period of time, it's good to get new people working on your account as well, by the way, that it's done in collaboration with us. So
Sure.
we would never stop getting new, fresh blood on the account. It's just that it's done in collaboration with us, as opposed to they're here today and gone tomorrow. And that's what's important to us.
As well as the three agencies you just mentioned, I do know that you've had sort of very, very long term agency relationships with the likes of Front Page, who are an independent agency.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Many, many, many years. And again, I guess that speaks to what you said earlier on about ensuring that you've got the best people on your business and that they are the ones delivering day in, day out.
Yeah, and that they're constantly keeping fresh and keeping us fresh and coming forward with new ways that we can do our business better. And Front Page is a prime example of that. Small Glasgow-based agency, but they are constantly coming forward with new creative ways in which we can work, predominantly with our third-party distributors, with our trade, and they come up with brilliant concepts, great technology, great ideas that actually have been a key part of the awards that we've won within the travel industry for being easy to do business with.
Building on that for a second, I mean, obviously at the start of COVID, how did your agencies and external advisors respond? I've heard from some clients that there was kind of, a void where they couldn't get hold of their agencies, and importantly, agencies kind of were disconnected from their client relationships.
Not my example.
And B, what did you need for your agencies at the time?
I think that's the key thing. I mean, listen, we've had to have tough conversations with our agencies, and I have to say that there isn't a contract that we haven't renegotiated, but we're very conscious again that everybody's in business, right? So we're very conscious of the situation that everybody's in, and we've had to have some tough conversations, which has meant reducing hours. As I said, we've predominantly gone dark, so people understand that. I have to say every single one of them has been really good about it. We've also been good about it, I hope. If they say, listen, you've committed to this, but actually we're finding things are creeping back again, and again we have that conversation. So, I've always been a great believer that our agency partners, as far as I'm concerned, are an extension of our team. And your agency partners are only as good as you are in communicating with them and by treating them as part of the team. And if we don't communicate with them, if you don't bring them in the nest and make sure that they're fully aware of everything that's going on, then they won't be able to do the best job for you. I've never been a fan at all of supplier agency relationship. This is what we need, you get on and do it, at all. So, and I mean, without them, we wouldn't be where we are today. They are critical to our business. So it's a two-way partnership. We have had to have tough conversations. They've had to make some tough decisions as well, as we have, as everybody has. And hopefully, again, hopefully we will come through this together in a different way, but in the best way that we can.
Very rare to hear that from a client, so it's lovely to hear that, and it's great to understand actually how you built that relationship with your agencies over time. I guess another area you must be really rightfully proud of is the way in which you promoted and built respect for the LGBT community, both within celebrity and I guess within the cruise industry more widely. I say, however, there's still more to be done.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I talk about from a brand purpose point of view, and being proud as a company that I work for, from Richard Fain, our chairman, down to Lisa Lutoff, who runs the Celebrity Cruises brand, who I report into. And one of the reasons that I've been in this organization for 15 years in various different roles is because of what the DNA of the organization. And to work with an organization where at the core of it, nothing is more important than the guests, but also the staff, the crew being number one, is a joy to experience, and a real moment of pride, because not many organizations actually walk the talk in that way. And I think from a Celebrity Cruises point of view, the work that we've done very much jointly, so men and women in the gender equality side, is just of something to behold. So the industry overall is 5 or 6% female officers. We've gone from 2% to 23% from 2015 to 2019. Now, that doesn't happen by chance. And, I'm a great believer in, as Lisa is, as we all are, if unless you measure it, it doesn't get delivered. And that has been done through the hard work, mostly of our male marine team, in making sure that we've really come up with programs to work across the globe, in making sure that when we're looking at cadets, that we are extolling the virtue of making sure that girls also believe that they can be officers and they can be captains, and not just men. And we all know that young boys believe that they can be a pilot. And if you talk to young women, and we've seen all the studies, they just don't believe it, which is why EasyJet's done such a great job at what they're doing from the pilot scheme as well. And we absolutely have gone out to really change that. And it's been 5 years of hard slog, and we are celebrating the fact that we've now got 4 female captains out of 14. That's great, but we won't be happy until it's 7. So it is a great movement forward, and I think within that as well, from the gender equality side, but also with the work that again the Marine team led by Patrick Dahlgren, in working with the Ghanaian maritime team as well, in making sure that we're getting more Black officers on board. And we've just celebrated our first second officer, female Black officer, on board the ship. So we're the only cruise line in the industry where we've actually got Black officers on board, and that in itself, in this day and age, is just, it's incredible that we're so excited about recognizing it, and I can't wait for the day that it becomes the norm and not the exception. So from an equality point of view, and then from the LGBT side, we've always been very, very strong from an equality. From a guest point of view, we used to run cruises where we would have Friends of Dorothy drinks. Now, most of you will be too young to even remember the phrase Friends of Dorothy in the LGBT world, but that's how long we've been welcoming guests from the LGBT community. It's the first organization where I came out. I've spent most of my career being in, not being out, and officially out. And it seems incredible now when I talk to young people that I was nearly 40 years of age. So I know the difference that it makes if you're bringing your whole true self to work. I know the difference it makes if you can be who you are, and I know the difference it makes if you have a diverse team, because all of our guests are coming from around the world. All of our crew are from around the world. And how can we do good marketing if we're all a homogenous group? We can't. And still the travel industry is full of mum and dad, white, and 2.2 kids on brochure covers, on websites, etc. And it's crazy in 2020. That's still the situation. So I'm delighted that as a company, Royal Caribbean Group, and then as a brand, we're seen as a leader within that. But the travel industry is so behind from that point of view. I think probably the media world is as well, and we have to make it change. And the only way it changes is with allies. There's no point the LGBT community talking to themselves. There's no point the Black community talking to themselves or women talking to themselves. It needs allies. And that is what makes a change. And it's because we've got such great allies within our organization that we've managed to move the gender equality and move starting to move, following on really from the Black Lives Matter, some of that agenda as well. But we're having tough conversations globally with our BAME employees and led by Richard and Lisa directly. And they're getting some very interesting feedback.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of brands basically get it horribly right and horribly wrong. And I think there's been the same way we've seen greenwashing historically and environmental issues. Certainly, if you look at the Black Lives Matters and the campaign and the work around that, a lot of brands got on to the back of that and actually didn't have any meaningful contribution to make and been called out, rightfully so. There's a great video which actually you shared with me yesterday. I'd like to share with everyone now, if I may. This appeared yesterday on social. So it's a great demonstration of actually how far I guess you've already come, but I guess also it demonstrates what more there is to be done. Let me attempt to play this. Hopefully you can all hear this.
No. There's no sound, Stephen, I don't think.
No sound. Okay. I'm going to just plug in then. Okay. You might be able to hear it through my speaker now. I'll give it another go. No. No.
Never mind. Just, I mean, perhaps you can see the quote there. How can you be a captain? You're a woman. This is Captain Kate, who's our first female captain. Follow her on Instagram. She's quite remarkable. And her when you watch it, what she's brilliantly done. It actually hit the Independent. It was trending on Twitter yesterday significantly. She actually just said, usually I ignore comments like this, but I just think in 2020, it's really, really important to explain the difference between your, Y-O-U apostrophe R-E, and your. For example, your, Y-O-U apostrophe R-E, sexist, is versus something you own, which is your ignorance, Y-O-U-R. By the way, if you want any more lessons on grammar, come and talk to me. And she sits back in her captain's chair. It's brilliant. It's priceless. But watch it on Instagram. She does it a lot better than I do. And I think the thing is that there might have been a few corporations who might say, oh, don't do that. You're upsetting some of our guests, etc. We let our captains post whatever they want to post. We let our crew post whatever they want to post. And that, I think, is really important.
I'll share the link of that video afterwards and the follow-up, so it's well worth having a look at. Tell me, I'm going to open it up now for questions, but before I do, I'd just be interested to know actually, when you're able, how do you actually like to relax? What do you do for a holiday? Are you a die-on-the-wall cruiser, or do you actually enjoy other sorts of holidays?
I do cruise. In fact, last year I had a wonderful holiday on Edge. Took with us some of our ex-colleagues, William Morris, who you know, who's now CEO of Cafe Nero. Never cruised before, he and his wife and the kids, 4 of them. Never thought they would. And we all collectively had a fabulous holiday. However, clearly for me, if I only cruised, it would be a bit of a busman's holiday. It's difficult to completely relax when it's your day-to-day job. So I love doing lots of different things. I've got a passion for Mallorca. It's where we had our civil partnership, as you know, Stephen. Villa holidays, complete having time to yourself. I thoroughly enjoy. I am a Europhile, but I do lots. I've trekked, climbed Machu Picchu. Lots of different things. Doing a sailing holiday next year around the Greek islands. So without a doubt, I would I'm missing holidays more than anything. I'm not missing so much of the corporate travel. I have to say, I think there's lots of benefits from what we've learned during this time frame, massive benefits. My meetings with Miami are far more effective when we're all a little square on a screen than when they're in a conference room and I'm on the end of the phone. And I think there's lots of pluses that we should take forward with us into the new world, because I don't believe the old world ever will come back. I think it will be a new world, but I think hopefully it will be a different world and a better world in time.
Talking about little squares, let's open it up to some questions now. Brett, I'm going to start with you for no other reason than I know you're very close to both the industry and know Jo very well.
Hi, good morning, Jo.
Hey, Brett. Good to see you. So Brett worked with us for, Brett's a prime example. Brett came in to help out via Pimento for how long, Brett, originally?
6 weeks that turned into 2 years.
Yeah, 6 weeks to 2 years. Brilliant, and helped us massively in our brand strategy.
Thanks. I wanted to get your views on the wider sort of travel sector. And obviously you work with quite a lot of suppliers across the globe, and just wondered whether or not how suppliers had worked with you during COVID. And clearly one big part to that is the aviation sector. And they've come in for a very tough time over the last 6 months. And what your views were on the future of the aviation sector, how they work with travel brands.
So I think the sector overall, I think the aviation sector has taken a real beating, but I'll be honest with you, Brett, I think they could have handled, from a customer service point of view, I think they could have handled it a lot better. I think too many companies put too many staff out on furlough too quickly and at their detriment. And I think the aviation industry was significantly one of those. I mean, when you talk about not being able to get hold of people, those were the areas where either consumers or partners, we struggled to get hold of people. And it could be as simple as just a, sorry, I'm not in the office, without where anybody was. Whereas the companies that have really made sure that people, if people are on furlough, as we did, we called people up. We said, this is now your contact, so-and-so is on furlough, etc. Now, I know the size of that, scope of that was massive, but I don't think they've helped themselves from a consumer point of view. I think the refund situation also has been really tough. I mean, nothing is ready. 14 days was unrealistic. It is unrealistic. You know, the refund policy is not being written for COVID. So therefore, the changes should have been made and acceptance should have been made whereby customers understand that 14 days is impossible. But going up to 90, 120, or even trying not to give refunds, trying to persuade people just to, of course, we're going to try and persuade people to take a forward voucher, which is what we've done, but we've given them an incentive to do that by giving that 25% incremental. But if people want a refund, then that's what you need to do. And you need to have a team lined up. And that's what we've done. We took lots of people from different areas to line up ready to do that. So, and it's a concern as to how they come back. As you know, pretty much all of our guests need to get on a plane to get to our cruise from the UK. Now, the US is actually more of a drive market, as you know. So, and when we do come back, what we're planning on our initial comeback is that we are far more local travel. From our point of view, probably continental travel. So North America will be relied upon, for example, to fulfill the Caribbean cruises, not us. If Brits choose to travel there, great, but we're not assuming that. So our assumptions as we go back into service is that Europe will predominantly fulfill the European cruising, the Americas will really fill the Caribbean and South America cruising, and Asia will really fulfill the Asia cruising. And that's the way in which we're repurposing it. From a retail point of view, so the big travel retail networks have really taken the bashing. Obviously, the high street is just, will that come back? I think it will always be, I think it will now be very different. I really do. And certainly if you think about, I mean, we'd already had the demise of Thomas Cook, but there was still significant amount of cruise holidays booked through the high street still, as you know, probably because it was an older demographic. I think that's all changing massively.
And so from your trade side, do you see that online will be the future for cruise?
I definitely see that. Listen, we need both, right? Because we're building new ships. We're not stopping our new order builds. Those are coming down the track. There's a delay, but there's still new builds coming down the track. But we've seen during this time frame a significant increase. As you know, online was always tiny, and it's interesting how it's jumped up in a position. That and our call centre, our dedicated concierge call centre team. So I think security of who you buy with is more and more important.
Andy, I think a question relating to innovation.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. Jo, thank you very much. Really, really insightful into an industry that I know very little about. I'm probably not a cruiser, but you've gone a long way to...
Not yet, anyway, Andy.
Otherwise, thank you for mentioning my age, but that's probably an insult to Jo Brett, as she chases perhaps some of the millennials, which group I'm definitely not in. Really good insight to how you've adapted. Thank you very much. That's transferable to other sectors, comparing to other travel sectors, to Brett's question. And the prognosis you kindly gave on 21, 22 and 23 as a considered exit, if you like, from the current challenges, which you adapted well. My question goes a little further out. May I ask if your cruise line or lines will be the first to produce an electric ship?
Very good question. I don't know if we'll be the first to do it. We certainly would like to be the first to do it. But I can't absolutely commit to saying that we would be. But listen, the aviation industry and the cruise industry, we're fully aware from a footprint point of view, and everything that we're doing each time we build new ships and making sure that they're far more efficient, fuel efficient and emissions efficient than the previous class of ships has been. And if you look on RCL Investors website, I think you'll see our commitment to that. So I can't say we'll be the first. We certainly would love to be. Although I hope it's going to be easier to charge up than my partner's new electric car is, which is causing me significant headaches as I'm called around the country to come and rescue her as she's forgotten to charge up.
That's a good answer, a good analogy. Rely on battery, clearly battery and or solar panel, or as Boris was attempting yesterday, wind power yesterday. And none of us are perfect, and there's lots to do. But it's about, I guess, starting, which you clearly have, along with the diversity and inclusion piece, which was super to hear. But having a roadmap towards getting there, because I guess it is coming. And you will know, without causing trouble in the question, the cruise industry contribute to the challenges we have, like we all do. And your point about the electric charging point, I think 34% of the UK households can't physically charge because of the nature of build and or location. So there's a lot to do, but you are a leisure and safety brand, and it's pleasing to hear what you're actually doing. Thanks for the answer.
Thank you.
Just conscious now we're getting to the end of the call. Unless there's any final questions, I just want to take the opportunity to thank Jo for taking time out of her busy schedule, albeit it's been great because we've been able to actually get to senior people at this time who otherwise we wouldn't be able to reach, thanks in some part to the power of Zoom and the fact that people are still working from home. So thank you very much for your time, Jo. I really appreciate it. Some really interesting and pertinent points, as Andy was saying, impact on all of us, not just the cruise industry. Quick update ahead, sort of bit of a flag for next week. Next week, we're going to dedicate the show, as it were, to our people. With the end of furlough just 2 weeks away and no likelihood of any government support or any further government support, I guess we're all asking ourselves the question, what next for the agency world? To soften the blow, obviously, it's important that we basically consider, if we are likely to be making further restructuring or potentially making people redundant, what we can do as agency leaders to support our people at this time. I've invited Ruth Kieran, who's the CEO of Circle PR. Many of you know Circle, a strong consumer agency, part of the Pimento network. She also happens to be chair of people at the Alliance of Independent Agencies, so that the new alliance that's just been started out, and she's responsible for that particular area. She'll be joined by Heidi Wadsworth from Reality HR, the outsourced HR business that we work very closely with, along with our recruitment businesses that sit within Pimento, principally the guys and girls from Premier, as well as Michelle Morgan, who has been advising us on mental health and how to support our people at this time. We don't have lots of solutions, but we do have something we want to share with you, which we think will be a step in the right direction. But equally too, if you are at this time envisaging you're going to have to make changes, if you haven't already made those changes or you're going through a period of consultation, please remember there are resources and services here within Pimento to support you as you go through that process. And most importantly, we've also got recruitment companies that get people back into work as soon as possible. So do let us know if we can help you. Thank you once again, Jo. Have a fabulous day, and we all look forward to celebrity in the not so distant future. Can I wish you a good end of week, and thank you once again, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Nice to meet you. Thank you. Take care. Bye.